is the Steve Freeman Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Steve Freeman Podcast. It is good to have you here. I'm so glad to be here. Happy Friday. We're kicking off our weekend. Hope everybody has an amazing weekend planned. Don't forget, while you're here, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Something I mentioned a few episodes ago. Some of you may not know this. I just realized this myself not long ago. If you are not subscribed to the podcast, you do not get it when all of the subscribers get it, especially if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. I just learned this a couple weeks ago. The team sets the podcast every Monday and Friday to go live at 6:30 a.m. Central Time. Only subscribers get it at that time. For whatever reason, I don't know. I'm not questioning it. You know, there's two people in the whole department over at Apple Podcasts. I'm not questioning it, but for whatever reason, subscribers get it instantaneously. About 3 hours later is when it goes live throughout the rest of iTunes and Apple Podcasts. So it's important that you subscribe to the podcast so that you get it immediate. It's automatically delivered to your library, and it's there at 6:30 every Monday and Friday morning. While you're over there subscribing, because I know you're all fumbling for your phones right now, trying to hit that subscribe button, and I appreciate that. While you're doing that, make sure you rate us 5 stars. Very important. And leave a written review. Guys, it takes less than 60 seconds. Sometimes it takes less than 30 seconds. And you just want to go on and on and on about how much you love me and how great I am. Then that's going to take longer than 60 seconds, and that's cool. That's okay. But it could take as little as 30 seconds. Leave us a written review. It goes a long way in Apple's algorithm in helping us grow the channel. I've got numbers I want to hit by the end of the year. You guys are making it possible. We can do it. Especially if you go rate us 5 stars and leave us a written review. I would really appreciate it. Make sure you're following me everywhere on social media at the Steve Freeman. We would love to have you as a member of our new Steve Freeman Podcast Facebook group. Go to facebook.com/the Steve Freeman. And you can find a little button there. It says, join the group. Join the group. We would love to have you as a member. Links to all social media and everything we'll be talking about today will be found in the show notes section of the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, it will be in the description section. So just click down there, any relevant information, links to our sponsors, it's all right there. All right, on to today's topic. Mask conspiracy. Mask hypocrisy. There's an article that came out earlier in the week by Rolling Stone magazine. And I wanted to talk, I'm going to read the article because I doubt very many of you subscribe to Rolling Stone. I'm going to read the article. Now, this could be considered political, and I'm not meaning it to be political. I do, however, don't have to be political on one side or the other to find some hypocrisy here. And I don't know about you, but I'm one of these people, I'm getting tired and more tired and absolutely exhausted with turning on the news or reading an article from, like this, Rolling Stone. Really, it shouldn't, I wish they just wouldn't be political. Rolling Stone is supposed to be about music, about the entertainment industry, and there's enough going on in that world. I don't understand why every single publication has to take a stance on one side or the other. Everything has to be political. We wonder why in this country we keep talking about coming together and unifying. How in the world are we supposed to do that when every outlet that we consume on a regular basis is taking a hard political stance on one side or the other? So no matter which side you're on, you're always seeing a slanted view. That is CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox News. Evidently, it's Rolling Stone. But John Freeman, who I know John, and I don't have a problem with John. He was at Music Row magazine for a long time, and he left Music Row and went to Rolling Stone. Wise move on his part. They came out with this article the other day, and the article is titled, "Some Nashville Stars Are Crying Hypocrisy Over Election Celebrations. Here's Why They're Wrong." See, to me, news, it could have stopped before the opinion. Some Nashville stars are crying hypocrisy over election celebrations. That's news. That's a headline. But then you have to go further and go, here's why they're wrong. What if I don't want your opinion? What if I just want the facts? What if I just want to know what the story is and what people are doing? Why do we always have to assign right or wrong to somebody? We have to take a stance. The secondary headline of this reads, artists like Morgan Wallen and Brian Kelly of Florida Georgia Line are drawing a false equivalency between spontaneous election parties and organized concerts. See, this is where I start to draw the line. Whether it is spontaneous people taking the streets to celebrate, or it's people buying tickets to a concert, to me, maybe I'm an idiot, but to me, both things have to do with large groups of people joining together. See, to me, it doesn't, and this is where, for me, the hypocrisy comes in. The end result is the same. It doesn't matter if people which I don't believe people spontaneously do anything. I think there's a thought process behind everything we do. I didn't just decide to come in today and do a podcast. It wasn't spontaneous. I thought about it and thought, well, okay, it's got to be done. Let's go do it. So I don't see a difference between people spontaneously deciding to celebrate in the streets over Biden's election win, or people buying concert tickets and purposely going there. The end result's the same. Group of people together, which what we're going through with coronavirus is supposed to be a big no-no. We get our hands slapped. All right, I'm going to go through this article. Today, barely 9 months since the pandemic took off in earnest, the United States has surpassed 10 million cases of coronavirus. That's according to Johns Hopkins University, a bastion of public health and medicine, not a media outlet, and that some may choose to dismiss as quote-unquote fake. More than 237,000 Americans have died since the first reported case of COVID-19 in January. This is the first paragraph in the article, and we're already political. Calling Johns Hopkins University a bastion of public health and medicine. And I'm not saying anything bad about Johns Hopkins. Great university hospital. Great research hospital. But to automatically assume that you have to quantify that statement with a bastion of public health and medicine. Like, how dare you question Johns Hopkins University? And then go on to say not a media outlet that some may choose to dismiss as fake. Okay, I don't remember anybody saying anything about Johns Hopkins University being fake or the news they put out being fake. Maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't seen that. Here we have to, we're letting the reader know up front that we have that this whole article is taking a political stance. The article goes on to say, and yet today, a number of country music artists, some who should know more than better, are spouting off about, quote, hypocrisy. As they see it this weekend, spontaneous celebrations in cities around the country following Joe Biden's victory in the presidential election, an election George W. Bush described as fundamentally fair. Now, see, we're having to qualify. See, even a Republican says he won. Again, more political shift. Are somehow equal to their right to begin playing concerts again. Quote, the hypocrisy is unreal, Morgan Wallen wrote on Instagram, along with the photo of people crowded into the street opposite Lafayette Park in Washington, D.C. He goes on to say, if you don't agree with me, fine. We can still be friends. But I have a family, band, and crew that need to be provided for and taken care of. If it's okay for us to party in the streets with no social distancing, then we can book shows right now. Okay, I have no problem with what he's saying. I think when I see that, my brain immediately goes to what we were saying earlier, and that is whether it's a group of people together at a concert or it's a group of people in the street celebrating, it doesn't really matter. And I do find that there is hypocrisy there because for the last, since March, what is that, 9 months ago, 9 months, We have been told you can't go to church, you can't sing, you can't have concerts, you can't have gatherings, you can't do this, can't do that. People bashed on Trump for the entire election season as long as COVID has been going on for having rallies and encouraging people to get together. And just bash and bash and bash and negative and how dare you. But now all of a sudden, it's okay for people to celebrate in the streets when Biden wins. Morgan Wallen is calling out the hypocrisy here because to me, it's plain. It's plain and simple. It's easy to see. It is okay for people to spontaneously erupt into the streets and celebrate together. They're happy. I get it. Go celebrate. I'm all for it. But what is good for the goose is good for the gander. That's what Morgan Wallen is saying. Why is it okay and there's no negative press coverage whatsoever? Matter of fact, when they were covering this the other night, it was out of pure rejoice. Oh, people are filling the streets. People are excited. There's a change coming. Look how excited people are. But had that shoe been on the other foot and Trump would have won and people would have taken to the streets, it would have been 100% negative. Look at these people. Trump is encouraging his followers to spread the coronavirus. Aren't they aware there's a pandemic going on? So there is hypocrisy there. From an economic standpoint, I get where Morgan Wallen's coming from. He's looking at this and pointing out the hypocrisy that these people can do this in celebration of the election, but he can't get paid to do what he does for a living. He can't pay his band members. He can't pay his crew. He can't pay his staff because you're not allowed to get together in a group. And he's pointing out that if you can gather in the streets to celebrate a Joe Biden presidential election victory, then you can get together to watch concerts. See, that to me is not Democrat or Republican. That to me is just looking at apples and calling them apples and then looking at oranges and calling them oranges. Now, it's easy to point out that these people think that Morgan Wallen is wrong. Continuing on with the article, Wallen, as you might remember, was uninvited as the musical guest on Saturday Night Live last month after videos and photos appeared online of the singer kissing women and mugging for the camera at an Alabama party just days before his SNL debut. In a video apology, Wallen said he was going to take some time off and that it might be a second before you hear from me. Rolling Stone continues, it was barely that long. He refused last week on the podcast of radio personality Bobby Bones. He appeared last week on the podcast of radio personality Bobby Bones. This weekend, he was online lecturing about largely masked celebration. Here's where the hypocrisy is. Would Rolling Stone, would John Freeman or Rolling Stone magazine have an issue whatsoever of Morgan Wallen if he were on Instagram holding a Biden-Harris sign without a mask on, surrounded by 1,000 people celebrating the victory? No, they wouldn't. The headline would read much different. It would read, country artists support Joe Biden. Country artists support change in America. It would be very positive. Only because they don't agree with him politically are they criticizing him in this article. Now, he was not the only one. Brian Kelly, half of Florida Georgia Line, suggested that COVID-19 may be somehow tied to the election itself. He said, quote, knew we were waiting on the election since March when this shit show started. That was him commenting over a photo of DC celebrations the other night. Conspiracies seem to run deep in the Kelly household. Earlier this summer, and again, I'm quoting from the article, his wife, the social media influencer Brittany Kelly, amplified the Wayfair online furniture conspiracy, an insane second cousin to Pizzagate and QAnon that warns of child trafficking. Again, trying to completely dismiss what they don't know. John Freeman doesn't have a fucking clue if any of this stuff is real or not. He doesn't know. He's trying to get you to subscribe to Rolling Stone magazine. He doesn't know. I don't know. You don't know. I will say, technically, and most of the time, where there's smoke, there's fire, but we won't get into that. On Monday, she addressed her followers in an Instagram video clarifying her take on the election dance parties. Quote, we are for the rallies. We are for the celebrations. Whoever wins, it's fine. But it felt like someone needed to call out the hypocrisy. I completely agree. To me, this is not being a Republican or being a Democrat. Again, large people are allowed to gather to celebrate Biden's victory. Crowds of people are not allowed to buy concert tickets to go see a concert. People are allowed to rejoice in the streets, but they're not allowed to go to church. They're not allowed to go to a restaurant in California and have people sing while they're eating dinner, because talking's fine, but singing is completely, you're just putting everybody at risk. There is hypocrisy here. Time to go back to work, America, Brian Kelly continued in his post. Booking shows ASAP. Well, not as Florida Georgia Line, he won't be. Little cheeky there. On Monday, his bandmate in the duo, Tyler Hubbard, announced he's quarantining after testing positive and will be missing FGL's scheduled performance at Wednesday's CMA Awards. The country singers Chase Rice, Ray Lynn, Michael Ray, Mitchell Tenpenny, and Chris Lane also weighed in with online comments equating spontaneous celebrations with organized concerts. People are partying in the streets everywhere in this country, yet we can't have concerts, Chris Lane wrote over a photo of students unwisely rushing the field during Saturday's Notre Dame football game. Unmasked gatherings don't faze Rice and Ray Lynn. We have to slap their wrist here. The former held unmasked, but admittedly outdoor. They had to put that in parentheses. Concerts for fans in Tennessee in June. And Ray Lynn posted a video from religious worship protest she attended alongside thousands of people in October in downtown Nashville. They had to put protest in quotation marks because it had to do with something Christian. Again, something we can't stand for. Clearly, some artists don't see the key differences in environment. A celebration, this is where we're going to get educated by John Freeman and Rolling Stone magazine as to how we should live our lives. A celebration that erupts in the wake of an emotionally exhausting election, or a protest that forms against racial injustice and police brutality and spills into the streets with nearly everyone wearing masks in constant motion, is not the same as being seated or standing room only indoor shows. We're being scolded here. We're being educated. This is fucking ridiculous. I swear to God. How is it the same? How is it not the same? Groups of people wearing masks or not wearing masks are groups of people wearing masks or not wearing masks, regardless of what their intent was or the reason that they're there. Again, do you not see this? This blows my mind. If you want to go protest, it's fine. If you want to go celebrate Joe Biden winning, totally fine. Want to go to a concert? Absolutely not. You're causing people to die. You're killing people by spreading the coronavirus. Back to the article. On top of this, and perhaps most egregious, the nonchalant calls to restart live shows generally fail to consider or acknowledge the fans. We've all been thrown into economic crisis because of the pandemic. Millions have lost jobs, with music crews especially hit hard. And yet artists clamoring to return to the road in a traditional manner, not like the socially distanced and limited capacity concerts by Jason Isbell and Marcus King. They're not taking into account their fans' finances or their very health and safety. Again, nonchalant calls to restart live shows. I don't think any of these people that are cannot provide for their employees and can't pay their employees are approaching any of this from a nonchalant point of view. I don't think just because these artists want to get back to work means that they're not taking the coronavirus seriously or that they're being nonchalant about it. I don't believe that. I don't think anybody that's lost their job or income that wants to start making money again and go back to work is taking the coronavirus nonchalantly. Given the recent diagnosis of two of their colleagues, Hubbard and the singer Lee Brice have also had to bow out of the CMA Awards in the COVID-related deaths of Joe Diffie and John Prine. Such comments to resume live concerts seem both cavalier and extraordinary. I will give John Freeman two thumbs up on his vocabulary. But perhaps they shouldn't be. Back to the article. Maybe, just maybe, some of these artists are overcompensating for another failure they witnessed this past weekend. Here we go. It's all Donald Trump's fault. When Donald Trump was on the campaign trail in the weeks leading up to Election Day, Where was the outrage over his largely masked, devoid and eyebrows to assholes rallies? Herman Cain was diagnosed with COVID 9 days after attending a Trump rally at the BOK Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then died. Where were the Instagram stories? That most chicken shit method of saying something in a way that doesn't hang around too long. What? When did that? When that happened? I'm blown away the more that I read this. There were no outrages because we're on the other side going, if you can riot in the streets by the thousands, if you can protest in the street by the thousands, then we can have Trump rallies by the thousands. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Again, when people start taking to social media on this side of the issue and posting is when we get tired of having our hands slapped time after time after time after time for doing something that it's okay for you to do when you believe in the cause. If you want to go out and rally, protest, riot on behalf of Black Lives Matter, that's okay. That's okay to go do because you believe in the outcome of it. You believe in the purpose of it. But people that want to go to Trump rallies who believe in his purpose and believe in his mission, it's not okay. That, by pure definition, is hypocrisy. John continues in the article. So maybe they're simply mourning the defeat of Trump, the wannabe Superman who on supercharged and super expensive regimen of drugs beat COVID, but couldn't beat Biden. Even if John Rich is tweeting that, like Lazarus, Trump will rise from the dead. Look, I don't care what side you're on. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're Democrat. But let's get down to basics. If you can protest, if you can gather by hundreds and thousands of people to protest in the streets, then you can go to church. If you can gather by the thousands to protest, to riot, to make your voices heard, to celebrate, then you can go to a concert. The end is the same. The sum of its parts is the same. What we're talking about are groups of people getting together in the same place. Wearing a mask, not wearing a mask. It doesn't matter. We're talking of groups of people getting together in the same place. It doesn't matter what their purpose is. It doesn't matter which political candidate they are supporting. It doesn't matter which movement they are in support of. But obviously it does to some. This is why we are divided in this country. Don't let people fool you and tell you that this is about Democrat and Republican. Because it's not. It's an ideological thing. We're divided in this country because people cannot look at both situations and understand both sides of the story. So when people that are over here on, let's say, the right side, when they see people being told that it's okay to protest, it's okay to riot, it's okay to take to the streets and celebrate Joe Biden winning, that's okay. But it's not okay to have concerts. It's not okay to earn a living. It's not okay to sing. It's not okay to go to a Trump rally. It's not okay to go to church. That upsets people. Because if we really want this equality utopia that everybody talks about and everybody wants, and what's good for one is good for another, and we're just all one people, we're not red states, we're not blue states, we're the United States. Well, if we want to get there, then we all have to recognize the hypocrisy. We all have to go, okay, if it's okay for you to do this, then it's okay for me to do this. It doesn't matter what the reasoning is. It doesn't matter, shouldn't matter, which political party it's in support of or what cause it's in support of. If a group of people can get together and take to the streets and celebrate Joe Biden, then people can get together and go to a fucking concert. Same thing. I think even I want to make sure that I call this right. I got to make sure that I say this right. I'm sure the bastion of public health and medicine at Johns Hopkins University would probably tell you that the spread of the coronavirus and the dangers of that happening are the same in either group. They're the same in people getting together to rejoice a Biden victory, and they're the same in people getting together to go to a concert. What it really boils down to is us being told what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do. And we're allowed to do the things that this party agrees with. We're allowed to do things that this party agrees with. But it's not okay if you do the same things they do, they just don't agree with your objective. We're not ever going to be able to unify as long as we look at things this way. We've been through a very difficult year. 2020 has not been kind to a majority of people. I get where these guys are coming from. I know they want to go back to work. They want to provide for their families. And let's face it, Florida-Georgia line is one thing, but Morgan Wallen is not at the point in his career where he's made millions and millions and millions of dollars and he can sit back and not really say anything. See, you don't hear much from artists that are in that situation because they have money to pay their crews. I mean, Garth Brooks paid his crew for almost, 12, 15 years while he took off. He paid everybody as if they were on the road doing everything they normally do. So you don't hear from the top. It is the people who are on the way up. They're like, man, I was just starting to get a foothold. I was just starting to make a living. I was being able to have a staff and provide employment for other people. So I understand these guys wanting to get back to work. Everybody wants to get back to normal. I don't think that's a red or blue thing. I think everybody wants this damn virus gone. I don't know if the vaccine's going to be the answer. There was positive news this week with Pfizer coming out saying that their new coronavirus vaccine so far has proven 90% effective in preventing the virus. And they hope to have 50 million doses of it ready by the end of the year. I think it's great. But we've got to stop being this way. When I want to read, I just sometimes want news. Tell me what happened and then let me think what I want to think about it. We've got too many people trying to tell us what to think. And just because these country artists are exercising their freedom of speech to express how they feel, John Freeman and the idiots over at Rolling Stone think it's their moral superiority from a stance of I'm better than I'm going to tell you how you should be acting. And I'm going to slap your hand for not doing exactly what I think you should do. I think we got to start taking a hard look at what we support in this country. And I'm fine with Rolling Stone having their opinion. I'm fine with John Freeman having his opinion. He's a great journalist, he's a great music journalist. But I'm getting tired of having my hand slapped and telling me I'm wrong for this. Meanwhile, you guys think that the same thing is totally right and understandable and should be happening as long as it's what you agree with. That's getting old to me. What do you guys think? I'd love to see your guys' comments on this. If you're watching this on YouTube, or you can even leave comments on the podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify and other places. I would love to see what you guys think about this. I have a feeling that it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. I have a feeling that most of you guys feel about this the same way that I do. Any person with common sense can look at this and go, two crowds of people are two crowds of people. It doesn't really matter why they're there. It's two crowds of people. I'm just getting to the point where I'm being tired of the reasons I want to make it wrong and the reasons you want to make it right. That's not how you unify a country. Well, okay, on a brighter note, we are at that season where gaming, and I love gaming. Most of you that have been around a while and have followed me for a while, you know how much I love gaming. The new PS5 and the new Xbox are coming out. People are going nuts. People are waiting with bated breath on getting their pre-orders from places like GameStop, Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, all these other places. The new Call of Duty game comes out on the 13th, which I will probably shut myself in all weekend and be playing Call of Duty and streaming live with friends, playing probably all weekend. And I say that to say maybe we all need to step away for just a few minutes. Take our eyes off of this ball that has just rolled and rolled and rolled and steamrolled all of us. I'm ready to get back to just some of the funner, more lighthearted, less serious things in my life. And I'm hearing from a lot of you guys that are saying the same things. A lot of you guys just it's like, God damn, can we please just not, does everything have to be political? And that's why I'll go out on a limb and say this. I alluded to this in last episode. I understand, and I firmly, honestly do believe that there was some voter fraud in this election. I think there's been voter fraud in every election. Let me say that. But I think there were some issues here with the mail-in ballots. But I'm also at the point, no matter the fact that I voted for Trump, I'm ready to move on. I wish he would just concede. He doesn't have to necessarily retreat, but he can concede. Put the best interest of the country first, both the red part of the country and the blue part of the country. Concede, step back, reload. Figure out what to do from here. The country is broken. Our people are broken. We are divided. We're sick. We're dying. We've got this pandemic that we just all of a sudden now it's spiking again. We need to heal. And as long as we have our swords drawn against each other and we have our guns pointed at each other, itching to pull the trigger, that's going to be impossible. So this weekend, I'm just going to play games. I'm going to watch football and I'm going to play games. I'm going to go home and that's what I'm going to do. And I hope you guys have something. If it's Netflix, if it's Hulu, if it's something, maybe take the weekend to find something that takes your mind and your brain and your consciousness off of all of this other shit and put it onto something that just maybe is a little bit more lighthearted, a little less serious. And maybe we can start clearing some of this fog and move on with our lives, get past this virus, and get back to some sense of normalcy. Guys, thank you for joining me for another episode of the podcast. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcast or Spotify, Google, Stitcher, anywhere else that you listen to the podcast. Thank you for watching the video versions on YouTube. We are no longer putting the video versions on Facebook. They will exclusively live on YouTube. So make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're following me on social media. All of those links are in the description or the show notes section of the podcast. New content coming to the YouTube channel every Wednesday. If you haven't seen it already, there's a new video up. I do one every year. It's one of the most popular videos I ever do, and it's my pick for the best digital distributor of 2021. As you're heading into the new year, you're thinking about releasing new music, make sure you're partnering with a reputable distribution company for your digital music distribution. My pick for the year for 2021 coming up is on the YouTube channel now, and you can find it there. Guys, until the next episode, keep being creative, keep pressing the boundaries. And there's nothing wrong with being independent. See you on Monday.
The Steve Freeman Podcast. Available now on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and everywhere else you get your podcasts.